it's an extension of us because they know we're going to listen. For kids, sometimes they don't always feel like we're listening. They feel very misunderstood or like you're not listening to me. And I think with that extension of the Telly phone, it provides a different type of interaction with the person that they trust already.
Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Shafer of Talks with Dr. Shafer. I'm so glad you're here. I'm a physician, mom, coach, musician, author, publisher, and I'm passionate about helping others reclaim their stories so that they can build their most beautiful future. Storytelling is such a beautiful way to do that and to practice the steps. Today, I have an inspiring guest who is helping kids tell their stories in a fun and educational way. Anais Zavala is the creator of the popular Telly Tale Phone, which is gaining popularity as a way for students to tattle on one another in a safe space, giving them not only an opportunity to air their grievances, but also setting the stage for students to think more deeply about the story that they want to tell. The Telly Tale Phone is now not only being used in elementary schools, now there are even retirement communities and assisted living care facilities using the Telly Tale Phone as a safe space for some good gossip. Anais, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your story with us today.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to hear your story. We love educators. We love having the opportunity to speak to you on Talks with Dr. Shafer because it's such an important thing that you are doing to build the basis for the future of this world. It's so beautiful. I also think it's really interesting to interview people like yourself who are very established in your field and you decide, I want to add to this. I want to do something else and contribute in a different way. And it's funny because entrepreneur, educator may not go together, but actually there's such a beautiful marriage with the product that you've created and the services you provide. So tell us to start with, what made you want to become an educator and then talk about this pivot into entrepreneurship and creating the Telly Tale Phone?
Yeah, so I actually started my career as a behavioral health aide. I wanted to be a social worker. That was my jam. That's what I wanted to do. I went to college and I got my sociology degree, and I was gung ho about that. Just things from my childhood and things like that that inspired me to want to help kids. And I've always wanted to help kids as far as like giving them a voice to express themselves. Even when I was a behavioral health aide, I did counseling. So you can imagine the stories and the trauma and the things that you hear from these little babies that literally have not been exposed to anything. But they've also been exposed to so much that they shouldn't be exposed to, if that makes any sense. So I started off my career that way, and I did that for 6.5 years. So that is kind of the basis of the telephone in general, because it's what I built my curriculum off of. The experience of understanding mental health, understanding how kids express themselves, and how important it is, but then also how sometimes as adults, we're just so wrapped up in adult life that we don't necessarily always have every single minute of every single day to listen. And that's okay, right? That's normal, that's life. So I decided, I'm like, you know what? I want to do more. I want to do more. And so my goal was to become a principal. I went into education and just becoming a teacher because my end goal was to become a principal. I'm like, how am I going to go and be the boss if I've never been a teacher? It would make no sense. And I'm like, there's so much to learn in the classroom. I know as a counselor, I haven't fulfilled all of that learning that I could do, and I don't necessarily understand everything. And I wanted to understand everything, so I went back to school. I got a master's in education, and then I got a credential, and I started my teaching career, and I ended up falling in love with teaching. And I was like, man, this is where I was supposed to be. Like, this is crazy because my journey has just been so random. Like, okay, counselor, now you're a teacher. Interesting. Because usually people go the other way, right? And I did the other route. And so that was a lot of fun. It was an experience. But I started off teaching TK. And if you know anything about TK, TK is crazy. You are learning things every single day. You are a mother, you are a nurse, you are a lawyer, you are all of the above, right? It's just like everything. Every day was a new journey for me. And the tattling was out of control, out of control, out of this world. Like, he brushed my shoulder, like, he touched my paper, or she, bumped into my foot, and now my foot's falling. Like, it was just insane. So I was inspired, because I'm like, "Well, no, this is not just me," right? So I'm thinking like, "No, this is not just me, like, this is a lot of teachers, especially in primary grades. We're dealing with this every single day. And if you're a teacher, you know that you're not just dealing with behavior, but you're dealing with the curriculum, and the social emotional now is being added into, your everyday education. And it's just a lot. So adding the tattling, oh, it gets heavy. It gets heavy. So that really was like the inspiration to moving into uh, entrepreneurship. It just random thought, like, hey, you know what? What if? And I had seen people use like the tattle turtle, and they've used like, the old phones. And I'm like, how can I do that? But I don't just want to like dismiss them and say, hey, go talk to the turtle, go talk to the phone. I wanted it to be like, no, but I'm going to listen later, and we're going to talk about this. And it just giving them that self-regulation and that sense of patience, because when you're 4 years old, you don't know what that is, right? And so you're learning all these things, which moved into now what we call the Telly Tale Phone, which is my baby, my passion project. I absolutely love what it does, and I love the changes that it's made in teachers' classrooms. So yeah, that's been like my journey, and that's like that's a short story. By the way, like there's just so much to it. Um, but yeah, I think I'm just really excited for what's to come, because, like you said, it's starting to become something that more people are aware of, and they're using in different capacities. And I think that it's a cool thing to watch.
Absolutely. I know for us, we do a lot of things around shelter dogs. We have a fundraiser, a book that I illustrated, my daughter wrote, and we're definitely going to use the Telly Tale phone to have at our booths when we're out in the community selling books, to ask people to share their stories with us. So I'm really excited about that. So that's just one extra way that I thought up to use the Telly Tale phone. I know a lot of people are using it in very creative ways. It's so cool. I want to hone in on something that you said, because I think it's really important. It's really easy when you're busy as an educator, as a parent, a leader, whatever it is that you are trying to make sure that we're staying on track. It is so easy to want to dismiss the little side quests that people go on. And the tattling, they're little side quests that are going on from all the little members of the story, right? And sometimes it's like, no, no, no. The story today is we are reading this passage, we're sitting here and we're doing this. We're not doing that. And I think it's really beautiful and important how you mentioned that you didn't want to dismiss them, right? You didn't want to discourage them from using their voices, but you also wanted to do really all sorts of things. You're helping them with self regulation, as you said, with patience, with waiting, right? We need to wait our turn. We will get our turn to speak. But I can tell you, as a children's author and going into these spaces, there is a lot of interrupting and things. Kids want to make sure that they get heard. So they interrupt the speaker, they interrupt the teachers, they interrupt one another, because they just want to make sure they get their opportunity. Whereas with the telephone or the tattle phone, people, they have to wait for the physical phone, right? If they just blurt it out, it's not going to be recorded, and they understand that. Have you seen that using that physical phone for tattling has helped with regulation and patience in general, because students are having that reinforced that you will be heard, but you need to practice your patience, as we say in my house. We're practicing our patience.
Yes, absolutely. So That's the coolest thing is that I was able to use it in my own classroom to start off with. Before I started selling it, before I started, diving more into the curriculum, I was using my own classroom and my own students as like, in a way, it's like trying to figure out and understand what it is that I needed, but also what I know that other teachers need too. And it was crazy because what I started to notice is that they would respect each other when they were even using the phone. Like, they would literally, like, give that person their space, and they're like, "Ooh, they're using the phone, like, this is serious time." And that was just the energy that I put towards the phone, like, it's not a toy. This is something that we're using to express ourselves, and if you really need to say something, and it's something that's really bothering you, I want you to be able to say it. Obviously, I think the misconstruction is, like, okay, what about if there's an emergency? What if, there's bullying happening? Or what if there's this or that and it's a bigger deal? This is why the curriculum is so important because it teaches kids how to measure the size of the problem. So they are using this tool where they can say, is this a small problem? Is this a medium problem or a big problem? And that is when you're able to use that telephone. Um, but as I used it in the classroom, I also started to notice that they were using it less and tattling less too, which was insane. So I'm like, "Wait, what?" But it was because they were thinking, like, "Is this something that I really needed to say right now? Because I know she's gonna hear it no matter what, but is it something that I need to say?" And so it lessened, and I would be able to intervene in those, like, bigger issues, bigger problems, that they were having, and the little, like, interruptions and things like that started to lessen. And I think it's just honestly, it's, like, psychological. Right? Like, the phone is there. You could use it. Someone's going to listen. Someone's going to talk to you about it. Now you're more conscious about what you're going to say. Now you're thinking about what you're going to say. And is it something that I can wait on? Is it something that I really need to say? And so my kids started to understand, like, hey, this is what a big problem looks like. Somebody's hurt. You need to tell Mrs. Lola. If somebody's bothering you every single day, you need to tell me. And it wasn't that I needed the phone for those things like at all. So they were coming and communicating the bigger issues to me, and the smaller ones were becoming things that they were starting to either work out with their peers because again, the curriculum has that, and it teaches them how to result in like conflict resolution and things like that. So it's just so many things that you're able to teach them with that curriculum that you start to see it just happen less, which is crazy because they're so little, but they get it. They really do. They get it. And I know that just from listening to testimonies from people and teachers that have used the phone, they're like, this is a lifesaver. Like, I can't believe how much my class has changed and just the conflict resolution and the self-regulation has just become something that kids are actually engaging in because they have an outlet and they know they have that no matter what, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really cool to see.
They get to practice those skills, and they understand that you are also measuring and placing value in what I think could be called good gossip. Gossip gets a really bad rap, but historically speaking, gossip has actually been an important way to spread information. And in modern days, gossip kind of has a bad reputation. But gossip was actually very necessary and sometimes helped people even stay safe and well informed, right? What sort of funny or really interesting experiences have you had with some good gossip coming from the telephone in your classroom, or that someone has shared with you that really made you think, oh, wow, this Telly Tale Phone really helped encourage this good gossip and it had a positive end to starting this conversation?
Yeah, I think definitely I could think of specific times where I would get the same good gossip about a specific student. And so then those students, and like I said, educators know this. Sometimes you have the quiet ones that kind of fall under that radar because they don't have those like outward behaviors. And you're so, teaching is so much, you're doing so much at one time that sometimes they go unnoticed. As much as you want to be able to work with every single child when you have 30 kids in a classroom, it's almost impossible, right? So with the phone, remember, I started noticing that there was a lot of good gossip about one student who was always under the radar. I'm like, no way. No way the student is like doing this or being sneaky and like doing sneaky things. And I'm like, no, no, no. But it made me notice somebody who would normally go under the radar. And I said, huh, what's going on? So I started to pay attention and I started to realize that she had a lot of stuff going on at home. And so these behaviors and this stuff that was going on and these little like sneaky things that she was doing, nothing harmful, but just sneaky. And in the sense like kind of annoying to her peers, right? They're like, ugh, I don't want it anymore. Like help. So I was able to notice that this was happening and then just kind of diving into it and then realizing she had a lot of stuff going on at home. Um, and then that created just a different perspective for me to where I'm like, okay, I need to focus on these certain things, like maybe having that extra conversation with her, like, hey, how are you doing? Like, how's it going? How was your morning? Little things like that that make such a difference for a child. And I would have never known this. I would have never known because if you think about it, as a teacher, paddling becomes like, "Oh my gosh, not again. Again?" And you kind of just like, "Okay, okay, okay, well, you need to apologize," like, or what's going on? But when you are not on like emergency mode or like busy mode and you're able to listen to these tattles at your own time and your own pace and when you're like back to, like sitting down and being normal, like, and, you can listen to them and you're like, hey, what can I do? You're more intentional. And intentional is like my words for this phone. You have to be intentional. This is not just a phone to record. And I know I post a lot of silly marketing and just like fun, but all in all, it is an intention. You have to listen to these titles. You can't because then the phone doesn't work the way you want it to and the way it should, right? You have to listen to what they're saying. You can't just say go to the phone and then delete all the titles. Like that's just not how it works. You have to actually listen because they know if you're not listening. And then the phone becomes like it's just not you're not being used for the correct purpose. So that's something that has happened, and I'm really thankful for that because I was able to build like a stronger relationship with her, specifically because I knew she was going through so much and it was showing, and I was able to track that because I was listening with intention, which I think really changes things.
Hmm. That's such a beautiful example and shows the benefits of having this in your classroom. I think it's wonderful. You also really made me think about something that I think many of us don't learn this skill until often later life, midlife, and we recognize that all of the things that we carry inside, all of the things that we want to say but we don't, the things that go unsaid, they carry so much more weight inside of us than they do once they're out in the air often, right? As long as we're not thinking about something that's disrespectful or unkind, we think about things like our fears or our wishes. We keep them inside often because we are afraid or intimidated to share them. We think maybe someone will think less of us or that we won't that perfect facade we've created for ourselves will go away if we say the things that we're afraid of or if we say the things that we dream of. And yet it's so beautiful when you come to understand that putting things in the sunlight, airing them, sharing them, whether you're a person who likes to journal or a person who, like yourself and myself and your students, really likes to verbalize how you're feeling, there's so much to be gained from that release and understanding that the world didn't end because you shared how you felt or because you talked about your dream or you shared the scary thing. You told the thing that maybe you were told should be a secret that shouldn't be a secret. When you share those things, they carry so much less weight inside of you. And I think it's an important skill to learn as a young person. And I really think it will if you're able to really internalize that and make it a habit, keep you safer because it encourages you to share rather than keep all of these things inside of you.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that to be real, I think that that's kind of the fear that some people have is that they're going to hear more than just a tattle. But the reality is that we are there for those kids and we are their safe space and we are their consistency. I have students and I've been in education for 12 years. Like I've had students that I'm literally the only consistent conversation that they can have, in their day. I am, like a second, like almost like a second parent as I spend more time with some of these kids than they spend with their own families. And I think that's real for any teacher, right? And I think that's kind of what it is the fear. And I've heard like, but what if they tell you more than just a tattle? What if it's like something serious? I'm like, well, good. This is good. This means that they were, they knew you were going to listen. They knew that they were telling a trustworthy person. At the end of the day, this phone is a reflection and an extension of us as teachers. It's an extension of us because they know we're going to listen. And it for kids, sometimes they don't always feel like we're listening, right? They feel very misunderstood or like, you're not listening to me, you're not understanding me. And I think with that extension of the telephone, it provides a different type of interaction with the person that they trust already. So I think if anything, it's a compliment and it shows a lot about a person as a teacher or as an individual if you're getting these more deeper things on this device. Which I think all in all, the broader picture is like, what if we save some lives? What if we save some kids? What if we help them get out of the situation that they don't want to be in? And unfortunately, with all the screen time, with all the I think there's just less human interaction face to face. There are a lot of students that have issues with eye contact, that have issues with talking to somebody face to face. But when you know that there's a phone, that you don't have to be face to face with someone, you don't have to be, looking at them when you're saying something so personal or maybe something that's bothering you, then you're able to really express what you want to say. Because at the end of the kids know, like you're gonna listen. Somebody's gonna hear it, so it's not like it's a secret. It's like I am genuinely telling you this because I know you're gonna listen. And so I think again, it's just there's so many things that can happen um, with using the Telly Tale Phone. And I think that's just the general that's my goal. My goal is to help as many kids feel seen, feel heard, but also to help teachers because we also are human and we also need to be feel seen and feel heard as well. And I think this just kind of adds to that. So I think in my own classroom, my own experience, I've seen so many situations where kids are able to really like just tell me what it is that is going on. Uh, which, if you don't mind, I'd love to talk about how you can use it in like upper grades because this is another issue that I feel is very. I get a lot of questions about that as I'm like thinking. I'm like, ooh, yeah, that might be something I would love to address at one point.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your brainstorming on that or the lesson plans you've already come up with. And also, I wanted to say that based on what you said, for the teachers, have you ever had someone, we talked about in an assisted living facility, and on social media, I've seen some really, really funny use of your phones in those settings. Um, but it also makes me think of this more heartfelt and team building and opportunity to communicate setting. There are a lot of places where adults work together where they don't necessarily have a lot of touch points, right? The team doesn't necessarily get a lot of opportunities to sit together, especially just the way that modern workflow is, right? There's so little time for us to actually be face to face and really communicate with one another. So I'm imagining, the teachers lounge having a Telly-Tale phone of their own that they can go to. What sort of unique situations have you seen the Telly-Tale phone be used so far in that vein, more for adults?
Yeah, I think at this point, it hasn't been as expanded as much as I would love for it to be expanded into adult situations. It's a little different with adults, right? Because again, like we said with kids, they know someone's going to listen, right? So you can only say so much. Although, like if you do say something and in a kind way, because again, we're in a work environment and we want a job. Um, I think it would be wonderful to see it used in that capacity, just to be able to communicate, especially because you said like everybody's like, coming in, going and leaving and working from home, and you have like your one day in the office. I think it would be great. I actually have a organization right now. Um, it's Schools First. I don't know if you guys have Schools First in Michigan, but it's Schools First. It's a credit union for teachers here in California, and they're doing a whole it's like like they're doing some type of research, but they're using the Telly Tale Phone as a way to get employee feedback on the new things that they're trying to input. So I thought that was so cool. And then I also random, but I also know a couple of bars that use the Telly Tale Phone as just like a fun way to hey, pick up the phone, you're having fun. And then I actually just got someone who asked me a little bit more about the phone who was assisted living who wanted to use it in a different capacity as well. I have a church that uses it for prayer requests, which I think is so, so cool because sometimes, again, you don't get that touch point, if you are at church or if you're religious and you want prayer over your family or whatever it is, and, pastor is not there or pastor's talking or whatever it is, priest, you can record your prayer request on the telephone. Like, how cool is that? So little things like that. Nothing crazy yet, but I am so open to it. I really would love to hear recordings from adults, and I haven't yet. So I'm interested to know because you said you've seen it in some assisted living. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I
Oh my
have. I've
goodness.
seen it on, and it may just be my feed. Our feeds are algorithms. Yours, I'm sure, is very lower grade centric because of the work
Yeah.
you do and the content you
Yeah.
create. Mine, I kind of have this cornucopia of amazing content. I have a catchphrase that says, stop doom scrolling and listen to a podcast, which I think is so true, a great thing to do. That being said, I love myself a good doom scroll, but when I doom scroll, it has to be with a purpose to find people like yourself to have come on the show because I want to have people come on the show that stop me in my tracks and inspire me. And the first time I actually heard about the Telly Tale Phone was when it was being used in an assisted living facility, and it was elderly
Oh.
patients telling on one another. And it was so funny. And I think, we talked about flexing this muscle, so to speak, this habit, creating this habit of speaking your truth, of saying the thing out loud. Sometimes it's too hard to say it to a person first, right? Sometimes you have to practice on the Telly-tale phone or write, a note, put it in an anonymous box. I find the spoken word to be my preferred method of allowing myself to let off steam, kind of like a teapot, like a kettle. And so I think it was really fun to hear them do that and to know that their community had grown as a community, like you talked about your classroom. They had grown as a community in their ability to say things out loud to one another because they practiced sharing these things that before they maybe would have held on to and it would have affected them. And when we talk about it affecting them, as you mentioned a while back in our conversation, these are truly important things, skills to have for our mental health. And mental health is imperative for our overall health. We talk about the brain and the body, there's an anatomical separation, but at the end of the day, we are one being, and you can't have one health in its entirety without the other. It's so important to attend to our mental health and to create a community and environment that allows all of us to feel heard, seen, and to be able to show up as ourselves and for one another. So I think it's so important. And I'm really excited to continue to follow along and see all the ways. I would love our listeners also, if they have seen a Telly Tale, whether it's on social media or in the wild in their lives, tell us where you're seeing it used. Because as you mentioned a lesson plan earlier, I think it would be really cool to say, okay, here are all the different ways it's being used. And it allows people to get really creative with how they're using it. You talked about wanting to use it for upper grades. So, what is some of the brainstorming you've done about trying to use it with older individuals still in the school setting?
Yeah, so something with just the upper grades, and I teach fifth grade now. So I went from TK to fifth grade. So it's a very big gap. So they're not trying to tattle on each other anymore. Like it's socially, it's not acceptable, not appropriate, right? They have names for people that tell on each other, and that's what they do. So the way that I've done it and the way that I encourage anybody who wants to use it in their upper grades, is you have to take away the tattletale like connotation around the phone. Like you can't make it a telephone. You can't say this is a telephone. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned with the phone in general. I literally will say we could just this is a phone that you can tell me what you need to say. You can tell me if you are having trouble with your homework. You can tell me if there's something that you're not understanding. So when you have this phone in these, you know, older grades, you create more, how would you say, like more reasons or more experiences or more ways that you can use the phone in the classroom. So it's not just a tattle phone. Because if you're up there and it's just a tattle phone, they're gonna know you're tattling, and they're like, "No." My 5th graders are like, "Absolutely not. We're not gonna use it." And so I think when you take that away from it and you take that name away and you say it's the Telly Tale Phone or whatever it is that fits your classroom and your need, hey, if you're not understanding the math lesson, make sure you guys leave me a message at some point today. If, you haven't done your homework in a week and you have a reason and maybe you don't want to tell me face to face, you can go use the phone, right? So maybe if you just want to give me a shout out and tell me what a good teacher I am, go use the phone, right? And so you're broadening. And when you broaden, it helps. I have a high school teacher that uses it for her kids and they use it for like shout outs and they use it for like, hey, miss, I didn't do my homework today. Love you though. I'm gonna do it tomorrow. And just, things like that. Cause when you're in high school, obviously you're in there for what, an hour, if that. So you have a lot of kids coming through. And so I think that's a great way to introduce the phone to those upper grades. Because I do get a lot of questions like, how could I use this for my high school students? Like, yeah, it's cute for the littles, but there's no way my kids would tattle on each other. If you broaden that reasoning for using the phone, if anything's serious or they need to say something, they know that it's not just going to be used for that one purpose. So they feel safer using it, if that makes sense. And again, it's all about like that psychology piece for these kids because they don't want to be the one. They don't want to be the one. Unfortunately, that's just the grade level and that's how it is. But I feel like that's really helped and it's helped my kids want to use the phone as well.
I love this idea. I had this visualization. I don't know if you can see behind me, I have a whiteboard. I love whiteboards. They're great for doctors, they're great for teachers, they're great for business owners. I just love whiteboards. And so I'm imagining on your whiteboard uh, or your chalkboard, if that's what you have, writing down what the telephone is for that day or that week, depending upon the structure of your classroom. One week it can be a gratitude phone, or one day. One day it can be a good gossip. Hey, I caught someone doing something really cool and maybe I was embarrassed to say something to them, but I want the whole class to know, or I want my teacher to know that I caught them being really kind or doing something really interesting. A brag day, right? I want you to brag about something you're doing because we're discouraged from bragging, just like we're discouraged from tattling, but actually
True.
being able to say, hey, I did this thing and I'm proud of it. That's a really important skill to work on as well. And an important opportunity to have a space to do that. That when you're in fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 22nd grade, maybe you don't necessarily feel that you can come out and give yourself a pat on the back. But if we're not our own cheerleaders, who will be? So I think it's really important to teach kids those skills too. So those are some of the things that popped in my head as opportunities to use it and make sure that that students feel they can connect with it and that it's not a negative thing. It's a positive opportunity for communication.
Right.
I love that.
Absolutely. I love that. Yes, I love that too. I know I love those ideas too. And I think I want to work on making more of those visuals for, because when you buy the phone, you get the curriculum. It gets sent to you along with like some other things because I do have people that will use it for parties and things like that. I'm like, this is an investment. Like, you don't just have to use it for your classroom. You can use it for your classroom and your baby shower the next month. Like, it's something that can, it's just voices, like voices that are important to you, voices that, want to speak to you, that want to say something to you. And I mean, what an honor it can be and what an honor it is to have, these kids or these family members that want to convey a message to you and can do that. And these can be saved. You can save them like voicemails. Like it's, I think it's amazing to be able to do that. And I think overall, that's kind of how I look at it. It's like you can use it in so many different ways in your life, in so many different stages of your life. Kind of just follows you along.
I love it. I have so many ideas. I really hope that our listeners will say what they want to do with their phone. Where can people, we'll talk about at the end of the episode, but if someone is listening right now and they're thinking, oh my gosh, I want to look this up and I want to make sure I get the Telly Tale phone and not necessarily something that's an imitation product, where can people go to learn more about the phone?
Yeah, so they can go to tellytalephone.com and there's product descriptions, videos, things like that that will tell you the two different versions of the phone. So I have a USB version and I have a Bluetooth version. Both have their own, great pros in their own right, and they are different. But one might work better for your class. The other one might be something that is like, I don't know. I would rather this one. So you have two options, which is really cool. And it gives you a description of what each of those phones do. I also just made a couple of videos that give descriptions and kind of like step by steps on how to work the phones as well. So then that way, when you're on your way to purchase and you want to do more research or you're not sure which version you want, you can watch the videos and make an informed decision. And then obviously I'm a one woman show here. Like I package, I customer service, I do the manufacturing. I haul the boxes to the storage. It is me. All of it is me. So when I'm doing all of this stuff, like I'm so passionate about it, please reach out. If you have questions, if you want more information, you can reach out to our email, which is also on the website, which is our telephone at gmail.com. So any questions, anything like that, any suggestions, I appreciate the feedback. I love the feedback again because this is something that's so important to me, and I not only have recommended it, but like I used it in my own classroom, so I understand how it goes, how it works, how it can be best used in classrooms. So yeah, I'm excited for what's to come. I know there's so much more. I'm constantly thinking of innovation and like how I can continue to expand. Some people have seen we have Ellie the Telly, which is an elephant, and she's a plushie, and she has the recording device in her ear. So instead of using an actual phone, if you are using it for a younger child and or maybe some type of therapy or play therapy, she records in her ear, and you can have the user whisper or talk to her, like as if she's talking to her little baby elephant. So it's really cool. That's something that we're also, using to I'm using to expand and just everything again is me. So I literally take everything that anybody ever says about the phone very seriously and I use it and I'm like, okay, how do we make this better? Or what is working? What is not working? So yeah, it's an open discussion always. And I really appreciate everyone who has purchased and believed in the product at this point or to this point. It's super exciting.
Well, I think it's going to be more than a one woman show soon because, as amazing as you are and everyone is who's an entrepreneur, I think this is going to be huge and we're going to need to bring other people into the fold.
I, I really hope so. Like so tired. So I need, I have been manifesting it. I'm like, just one more person, like just one person that could just, answer emails for me. Like that'd be great. Um, but I really try. I try to answer every single email. So anybody who ever contacts the Telly Tale Phone, to this point, you are talking to me. There's no big corporation. There's none of that yet. 'Cause we're gonna manifest it. Because I would love, I would love to expand. I mean, I get people emails all the time about like, do you deliver to Canada? Do you deliver to France? Do you to the UK? So it's like it's it wants to be bigger.
Yeah.
We gotta get there. It wants to. It's like breaking out of its shell. It's getting bigger and it needs more, but it takes time. So we're just sending good vibes and we're manifesting.
It does. It does. And having these conversations and thinking about all the different applications, I think are great brainstorming ways to kind of, put out in the universe and have the universe, touch points with you and bring maybe this conversation will bring the right one extra person into your life. Who knows? We're manifesting it. I love it. We're
Yes, we are.
building our most beautiful future. And I think when we build our most beautiful future, it always involves other people. And I think that's the interesting part of entrepreneurship is you have an idea that often was sparked by the people in your lives, by your experiences. And then you're building, right? And then it's almost like this art project, right? That you make
Yeah.
in school and then you have to donate it somewhere or put it in a museum or whatever. And you're like, oh, but that's mine. It's my baby. I made it. But for it to live its life, right? We have to like push it out into the world. And I think when you are a small entrepreneur, and I understand this myself, like sometimes something becomes your baby and then it outgrows its space and you have to grow with it. And that can be scary. And that's why it's so exciting to meet people like yourself who you've done these pivots, you've taken these chances, you've had dreams and ideas, and you're actualizing them. And now you have dream A and you're understanding that dream A is growing and we might end up at dream Z eventually. And you're open to all the iterations that will take you there. And I think that is such an important part of being a creator, of being an entrepreneur. And I'm just so excited to see everything that happens. For you to give, on that note, to give our audience who may also have an idea and be inspired to bring it to life. How long was it from you having the seed of an idea to it becoming the Telly Tale Phone as it is now?
I first had my idea back in March of 2023. And that was when it's so crazy because my biggest selling point where I sell the most phones is in February. And I think it's a month. I have a theory. Like that is a month where we're all going crazy and we need help because that was when the seed is planted. And I'm like, I need something, please. We got to do something. So that's when the idea originally started. During that time, that's when I had like a phone that I got from like a vintage shop. I was super into the 70s and I wanted to like have like a little, it was like a phone that I had in my house and it was just for show. It was just cutesy. You know what? I'm taking that. So I took it to work. And then that's when I posted and I got like 11.2 million views on this video, like crazy. And then it's just started to develop. I'm like, I need to know what they're saying. Like, I can't just put the phone there. Like, I want to know what they're saying. I need to figure this out. So from that point to, I would say 2024, it took me about a year. And during that time, it was like getting investors, getting people who believed in your product. I think the best thing, and shout out to my uncle, who's been a huge inspiration for me as well. He's helped me a lot through this journey and helped me with like finding investors. And he, since the day that I talked to him about this dream I had, he was like, "Whoa, that's a great idea." And I'm like, "What? It is?" Like, "Yes, it's fantastic. Like, it's so good." I'm like, "Oh my God, okay." Like, almost like you don't believe in yourself. Like, it's like, "I just have this idea." Um, and so I said, "Okay, like, what do we do?" So I had meetings on meetings with different people. I was talking about the product and had a slide deck and Zoom calls on Zoom calls. And it took me a year to finally get enough to buy my first um, set of phones. And was it perfect? Absolutely not. Like I was living and learning while living. I was, what do they say? Like you're flying a plane and it's not, you're still putting the plane to, what is it? You putting the plane together while you're flying it? I'm like, that was me. Like, oh, okay. Like, you get these emails, you're like, crap, like I shouldn't have done it like that. And, but you're learning. And now I'm like, I know what to do. I know how to box. I know how people think. I know what helps people understand products better. So in August of 2024 is when I started to sell my first set of phones. And I sold out immediately. Like, I'm so thankful for those first 100 people. They sold me out immediately, and I was, like, crying, like, how did I thought people believed in my product? And that's with minimal marketing. That was with me just saying what it did in my classroom. And then I had the help of, like, a couple influencers on some teachers that do so much great work on social media that also believed in the product. And I'm like, can I send it to you? Please, like, would you use it and post a video about it? And that's just how it went. And now we sold, I think I'm going on 2,000 phones, which is a lot for me. It's like I went from a dream of 100 to now, 2,000, but I just feel like there's just so much more. I'm like, there has to be more. Like we have to be selling more of these. Um, so that's the hope. But yeah, it took me as of now, I think we're going on 3 years of business. Yes, 3 years of business in August. And I've never had a month without selling at least 10 phones. So to me, that's like a huge accomplishment. I never thought that that would be a thing, but for like 10 people a month to believe, 2,000 people to believe in what I'm selling is pretty cool. And like you said, there's imitations out there. There's people that have taken my idea and used it for their own social media and used different products and, gotten their own uh, Amazon links and stuff like that for these specific phones, even though it was already being sold by me and I had a dream and that's why I appreciate these 2,000 people so much because I'm like, yeah, you could have gone somewhere else to find something similar. But you believed in the teacher that made it and the curriculum that comes with it. So again, I'm so thankful. I'm thankful and I believe that it's going to continue to grow and that's the hope. And I'm so appreciative of you and like all the positivity that you have, towards the phone and the inspiration that it's drawn in your own life and how you're using it for your own, business and your own stuff that you're doing and all the inspirational stuff. So it's great. So I really appreciate that.
Anais, I appreciate you, and I'm so excited for the ways that we can use it because we are a community of storytellers with Talks with Dr. Shafer, with our company, Little House of Dreams Entertainment. We do all sorts of things in the community, and we are always passionate about getting people to share their stories. And I think this is such a beautiful, tangible way to get the ball rolling on that. Do you have a QR code? So if someone like myself, so I'll go do pop-up podcasting in the community at farmers markets and things like that if we're selling books, what have you. And so I'm going to have it and I'm going to be using it for shelter dogs or I'll be using it for good gossip, right? I'll be doing all these things. Is there a QR code that maybe if someone is really interested in the phone, because I'm sure people will be really interested in the phone, that they could scan and it's going to lead them to you so that that doesn't get lost in the shuffle? They're not just Googling you, but they get to Telly Tale.
Yeah, I mean, I have QR codes, but I love that idea of being able to provide it to just the public in general and maybe make it like something on my website that someone can print out as like a PDF. Because I think that's a great idea. I don't have something actively out right now where someone could just go and scan. Obviously, I've done pop-ups as well, and I've gone to like teacher conventions and I've had like my own, but never have been able to supply that to the public, which I think is amazing because how easy would that be? I mean, people love QR codes.
Yeah, it's easy and, like, you're busy, you're doing your like, for me, I'm doing my podcast, I'm selling books, I'm doing autographs, like, pictures, all this stuff, and we're getting stories of shelter dogs because Shelter Dog is coming out, like, we're doing all this stuff, right? There's so we whenever we're out in public, there's so much going on, it's so much fun. It's just the best chaos in the world, I love it, but it's chaos. And my daughter is with me in the company, and so it's like this joint chaos, we have so much fun with it. But for me as a creator who will be using the product, like I would love to have the QR code there. So when someone asks me about the phone, I can just say like, yeah, scan the QR code, find out. It's
Yeah, I
amazing.
love that. We'll get you that. I'll get you that for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. And we'll
Yes.
make sure that once I get it, we'll make sure that in the show notes, we can have the links to your website and to that, because I think a lot of people are going to have amazing ideas how they want to use this. I think even, business conference, feedback, offices. There's so many different ways. I'm sorry, there's like a hair and I thought it was a bug. So it's like, oh, there are
Yes.
so many different ways for people to use the phone. And so I think it's just going to grow, and word of mouth for the Telly Tale phone, I think is where it's going to be.
I think so too. I think that's the best part. It's like it's honestly I've been so blessed in the sense that it's always fallen in the right hands. I think this whole thing has always just been like, you know what? I'm just going with it. I've gone with it. And if you know me, I'm not a person that just goes with it. I am very like, well, it's like I have so much anxiety. It's just something that like I've had to learn how to just go with it. And this product and this has just changed my life because I've had to go with it. It's always fallen in the hands of people that care about others. And I think that's just a testament of like hopefully the energy that I'm exuding, but also what this type of product is doing for people in a positive way. And so I feel so like inspired just having this conversation with you. And it just makes me want to do more. So thank you.
Anais, I am so inspired too. I have so many little things in my head, ways that I want to use the phone. And yeah, everyone who's listening, if you have ideas, put it in the comments. We're going to have all sorts of little promos out this week, social media talking about the phone. Also on YouTube, you can comment there. Tell us how you're going to use the phone. Tell us if you order the phone. I'm really excited. And I'm excited for just this idea of the community of how can you use a tool, because I think also when you're an entrepreneur and a creator, you create things, but again, you have this baby and you have to push it out into the world, and it's interesting because you want to tell people how to use it, but it's also fascinating when people tell you the different ways they use it, because then it just snowballs and it gets so it grows in ways that you couldn't have imagined. And that's the beauty of community. And again, that's what this is. It's the talk of the town, right? That's what it's all about. Get people talking and sharing their stories, and then it grows. So I'm so excited we had this conversation today. I would love for you to repeat again the website for people to get their phones, and also your social media, because I think it is really instructive and cute to see examples of how the Tellytale phone is being used. And we will, once we bring it to market, we will also make our own video. It won't be a Tellytale phone. It'll be a shelter dog's tail phone for us, but
I
make
love
sure that
that.
we show a different way that you can share stories using the Tellytale phone. So how can people learn more about you and connect with you?
Yes, so it's tellytalephone.com, and that's our website or my website. And this is something I always say. I always say our. And I think it's because I look at this as not just my thing, but like just everybody who's helped and inspired me to do this and to follow through with this because I've wanted to quit so many times and like I'm done, but you see how much it's doing for people and it makes you continue. So yes, our website is tellytalephone.com. And then if you want to ever get in contact with me directly, it's tellytalephone@gmail.com. And I answer all emails myself. And then obviously, again, just appreciating everybody who's listening and giving the telly an opportunity to make a way in your home in whatever capacity that is. And just remembering that you can just use it in so many different ways. It's not just one way. You can use that same phone for like tons of things. So cannot wait to see it. It's Shelter Dogs, you said? I love that.
Shelter Dogs. Yeah, that's Shelter Dogs
Oh my
behind me. This is
God.
our book that's coming
Oh,
out next week. It's coming out July 21st. So this episode is going to air on July 14th. So a week later, it is 100% of profits are going to support animal shelters across the United States. And so it's kind of similar in the sense that it's stories, but it's stories for your community. So instead of the money all coming to, one author or one shelter, shelters can have us do book clubs where they buy the books, they sell the books, and they keep 100% of the profits. So because it's not just, it reminds me of the Telly Tale Phone. It's not just our story and our creation. It's what life is that going to have once it's out of our hands and in the community. And I think, again, the Telly Tale Phone is such a great way to keep the momentum going as a part of our marketing and promotions for shelter dogs. We've gotten so many. We have 13 stories of dogs and one sneaky cat that got in to the book, and he's really, really funny. He's like,
Yeah,
he's telling the dogs, the scoop. Like, let me tell you how to actually get adopted. You guys don't know what you're
I love
doing.
that. That is so cute.
But those are the stories that are in the book, but we've gathered so many more stories, and that's what I love about storytelling is it's infectious. Like, you tell one story, you are brave enough to use your voice, you create tools as you're doing to help people tell their stories, and it just gets bigger and bigger, and it creates something that I think we're all really aching for right now with modern life is an opportunity to share and hear the stories that really matter to us and make us feel connected as people. So thank you so much for what you're doing. I think it is just so heartfelt and so beautiful. And please, everyone, go support Telly Tale Phone, a small business that is making a big difference.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I've loved this. This has been so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Anais. And we want to thank our storytellers for being here with us too. If you have questions or comments for us, let us know. We are so inspired by you and the stories you are telling. Until next time, stay safe and take care. I'll talk to you soon.